cowboys and one old man and another day of hell. Tuck wagon lagging behind from a strain of a broken wheel. The only thing to look forward to was a campfire in the mill. Sleeping beneath an open sky with just the stars above their head. Saddle for a pillow and some sagebrush for a bed. Waking up tomorrow was merely done by chance. Back when the West was wild and cowboys didn't dance. Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. Their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire, exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, the cowboys didn't dance. Pour coffee from an old tin cup, more sweat upon the brow. Another day of chasing that same old lonely cow. Every new horizon began a brand new day. 1,300 miles to go as they slowly made their way across the plains of Texas, through the Colorado snow. Final destination, Blackfoot, Idaho. Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. And their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance, yes. When cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance. $700 head of cattle on an old forgotten trail. 5 cowboys and one old man. And another day of hell.
Everyone, I'm Donna Fiducia.
And I'm Don Neuen, and this is Cowboy Logic Radio.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with hurt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glance. Back when the West was really wild. Cowboys didn't dance.
And welcome to Cowboy Logic, everyone. What is that?
It's kind of sign language.
No,
Donna.
it's distracting is what it is.
No, this is distracting.
Did you all have... Oh, right. Yeah, but the hats don't let us get any closer. We have dueling hats.
We decided to go with the matching hats
Yes.
tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you, I think it looks fabulous, don't you?
Not as good as my big red beaver.
No,
last
your
week.
red beaver was
Quite
very
honestly.
attractive and quite smooth.
And very comfortable, quite
That's right.
honestly.
So, ladies and gentlemen,
I'm going to get in trouble for that one.
I'm Don NEUEN, and I'm adjusting my in-ear piece. Let me be the first to welcome you to tonight's absolutely riveting show of Cowboy Logic. Boy, have we got a whopper for you tonight.
We do. We're going to be talking to ELIANA Brooks, WarriorBrideMinistries.com. Boy, does she have a story to tell, and she is just a wonderful, wonderful patriot trying to help young kids who've been sex trafficked, like herself, quite honestly. And also Michael Daugherty, who to me is like Superman. He's fighting for truth, justice, and the American way against the abuses of government. Yes. And so we'll be talking
that,
to
Donna.
both of them. No.
Hey, one other thing we want to bring some attention to, ladies and gentlemen, is the fine work that producer Ron Phillips did earlier this weekend. Hi, Ron.
Here he is.
Hi, guys. How are y'all?
Ron
Look
looks
how
like
good
he's
he
in the
looks.
studio with us.
He
I
is,
do.
believe it or not. He flew in just for this show.
900 miles away.
And
But
the next
ladies
one,
and
too, and the one after that.
Yeah, each of these, he's got a lot of frequent flyer miles that he's going to be racking up. He put together a kind of a promo that
I
was
did.
really nice. He sent it over to me on Sunday, and I was just, Ron, thank you for all the hard work.
It is
you
my
do
pleasure,
for this
guys.
show.
I look forward to doing more of those.
Like you don't have enough to do during the week anyhow.
That's right.
I got a few things going on. I do.
Let's talk very quickly before we get into the headlines, Donna. By the way, we had a viewer tell me that I've never let Donna do the headlines.
These are my headlines. I
They
never
haven't
do.
watched your show very much, I can tell you
I'm
that.
going to bring you in on a little insider baseball. That's the objective.
He
of
absolutely,
segment one.
he absolutely.
That's
Oops, wait.
the objective.
He absolutely keeps trying to throw me off what I'm trying to do, and that's headlines.
That's
Yep.
right. That's because Joe Biden taught me how to be an effective whisperer.
Are we going to do a Biden
And
thing now?
No, not right now. But Ron, whisper with us. Come on. It's a group whisper.
You got to
I'm here,
lean in.
I'm here, Don. I'm here.
You can't move the mic. Is your
All
mic on a
right.
stand, so you can't move it? You can't lean
this is-
forward enough.
This is really great. I'd like to say hello to all of our viewers tonight. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for devoting 2 hours of your valuable time to this.
Yes. We're going to do 2 hours a week. Now, for a while there, it was tough doing 1 hour, 5 days a week. I
Ron,
gotta be
did you
honest
like
with
how
you.
I snatched that microphone
Like,
back
yeah.
so quickly? It
Yes.
looks like
I did. I was expecting us. I was expecting us to. Yep, I was expecting us to start like yelling into the microphone, so all those people who turned up their headsets so they could hear us
That's
better
right.
when we were.
We wouldn't do that. That would be a mean gag.
It would be.
Anyhow, so this viewer says, Don, you don't ever let Donna get her headlines in, and I'm thinking that's the point.
I'm going to date
that's
myself.
the whole thing.
but
That's the deal.
I consider us the Sonny and Cher of politics, or whatever you want to call this now.
I think you're more attractive than Cher. I
Well,
really do.
Maybe right now, because, I should tell you the story. This is pretty funny. When I was in rock and roll radio, we were in Moscow, and we were interviewing John Bon Jovi and his band. And Richie Sambora at the time was dating Cher. So you know the way Cher has like a cleft in her chin?
Yes.
So we said to Richie, we go, she's had so many facelifts. Even back then, we're talking like
30.
early, like late 80s, early
3-0.
90s.
3-0.
Well, is that cleft in her chin or belly button? And Richie's
I get
it. And Richie's like, oh, that's hilarious. We thought he would get all upset if we mentioned that to him. He thought that was the best thing.
Well, how long did their relationship last?
Yeah, not too long, maybe right
2
after
months?
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right after, yeah. So, what we wanted to talk about with you people tonight, outside of Donna's headlines,
Yes.
is that
My headlines.
we got a special offering for all of the Cowboy Logic viewers and listeners. Now, Ron, if you can pull up this commercial that was created for the Biden VHS collection, this is now available to all of you. All of you. Ron?
Presenting the Best of Biden collection, now on home video. Now you can enjoy all your favorite wacky moments from America's senile old granddad.
Well, you know, gay bathhouses and it's all about round-the-clock sex. It's all, come on, man.
Including sniffing a baby, awkward hugs, numbers are hard,
Go to Joe 30330.
corn pop,
And Corn Pop was a bad dude.
racism,
If you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
stupid troops,
Clap for that, you stupid bastard.
blank stare. Blank stare part 2.
Colonel Pike.
Chris is
All
Chuck.
right, Chuck. Thank you very much.
All right. It's Chris, but anyway.
I just did Chris.
And many more.
Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night, the phone. Make sure the kids hear word.
But wait, call within the next 10 minutes and receive a free copy of Kamala's Kooky Cackles. That's right, 6 full hours of ear-piercing cackles that the whole family can enjoy. Here's how to order.
Call now for your Best of Biden collection. 1-800-555-PEDO. That's 1-800-555-PEDO.
Yeah, get your copies now.
555 pedo. You know, the thing is, I've seen those so many times. I actually can reiterate along with them, and I can mouth the phrases.
You're talking about the Biden
like Joe 30330,
guffaws?
and I mean, you know, Corn Pop was a bad guy. I mean, this is really
Bad dude.
scary, whatever. But the point is, this is the president of the United States. Could you imagine if one iota of that was Donald Trump, what the media would be doing right now? And if it doesn't wake you up as to how biased the media is and how they've become an arm of the deep state, I don't know what's going to wake you up, because this is scary stuff. And China knows it, and Russia knows it. And all we say is, oh, Trump is in cahoots with Russia. Seriously? I don't think so.
We don't say that, Donna.
No, but that's what they say.
Who's they?
My old colleagues. Some of which are still at Fox, unfortunately.
Boy, hadn't Fox jumped the shark?
Seriously
Wow.
jumped the shark. They didn't even show Trump's rally a week or two ago. And, of course, doubling down on unfree speech over the weekend. Trump was speaking at CPAC, and YouTube pulled that because they said CPAC was, I don't know, a threat of some sort. But it's okay if the mullahs in Iran who call for death to Israel are still on, and everybody else who's trying to kill off the United States and threaten us, they still have their YouTube channels and their Twitter accounts and everything else. It's anything Donald Trump derangement syndrome, forget it. I mean, this is why the country's falling apart. It has nothing to do with good policies, in my opinion. It has to do with undoing everything Trump did. So the borders are open. We're not energy independent. We have to teach critical race theory in the schools, and the parents aren't listened to. The teachers' unions are running things. I mean, it's upside down. And if you look at it, I call it not the bee.
Donna,
not the Babylon Bee. It's real news.
Let me ask you this. Back when you were at Fox, you would do a segment where it was around the world in 60 seconds or whatever, and you always used a pen. Can you do that real quick for us?
Well, you gave me a Mont Blanc pen that I would do it with.
It was a nice pen.
And then we go around the world in 60 minutes, 60 seconds.
60 seconds. Try it again.
Something like that.
That was really bad.
I'm out of my hold on. I got to get rid of the microphone so I don't bang it. We go around the world in 60 seconds. How about that? Can I go around the world now? Right now,
yeah. Why don't you do that? And I'm going to make some notes while you're doing that.
Not the Babylon Bee. For those of you who don't know, look, Yes, she's back, folks.
There she is.
The Babylon
That's our
Bee.
own personal sign language lady.
Yes.
Or
what is it?
I think it's a woman.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, let's give her a
Looks like she's
feminine
got
gender.
a pussy hat on.
All right.
Like
No,
if
that's
she was
just
there.
her hair.
Oh, okay.
All right, go ahead with your. I'm going to make some notes
All
while
right.
you're doing this.
Well, the Babylon Bee is a satirical website, and sometimes they say things that are actually kind of accurate. So I go to news and find not the Babylon Bee, which could be the Babylon Bee. This is how upside down actual news is. This is an actual news story. The United Kingdom's biggest cervical cancer charity is shutting down because of transphobic lies, as they call it, saying that only females can get cervical cancer, so they are closing down this cancer charity. How does that help women? I mean, this is really upside down. The NSA spies on Tucker Carlson while the FBI has zero interest in Hunter Biden's laptop. Again, not the B. That is actual news. California, which is already suffering. Are you writing this all down?
I'm taking some notes.
Oh, are you?
Making
Okay.
some notes. Well, you want to see him?
No, I don't want to see that. Look what he did. I'm going to shoot him. He can't do news. He cannot do news. That wasn't boring. That was real news.
There's my notes that I was making during your
God.
headlines.
Okay, California. So just be ignorant then. Okay,
I'm not being
California.
ignorant. Go ahead with more exciting headlines, Donna.
California, which is already suffering from blackouts and brownouts, is moving to close the Diablo Canyon nuke plant, which gives California 10% of its energy. 10%.
You put Ron.
I'm here.
Ron.
I'm here. Sorry. Donna was reading headlines. I'm sorry. I was taking a
Good
break.
thing you're 900 miles away because you are not immune to smack like that.
Oh, man. That was pretty forceful there,
I
Donna.
work hard at these damn headlines.
Yeah, back to you, Donna.
Well, this is insane. Audrey, are you out there in California? 10% of the energy in California comes from the Diablo Canyon nuke plant, and they want to shut that down because it's a nuke. We already saw what happened in Texas, how obviously wind and solar doesn't
What does El
work.
Diablo stand for in Spanish, Donna?
The devil.
I think that
Very good. Very good.
Nuke plant, something other than
It's not
that.
the El Diablo. It's Diablo
The house.
Canyon.
Well-
there is a Diablo Canyon there, okay?
Yeah, but would you want to name your business after the devil if
Yeah.
you weren't a liberal?
Did you know that China is building a coal fire plant at least every week, sometimes more than 2 per week?
El Diablo.
So China is going to be totally energy
Ay, caramba,
sufficient,
viciares, El Diablo.
and we're not. We're not. Illegals crossing the border in the last 2 months. This is just coming out over the weekend from Border Patrol. 174,000 entered the United States in the last month and a half. 39,000 of them got away. Doesn't that make you feel warm and cozy when you go to sleep at night? Thank God for the Second Amendment.
Hold on a second. Ron, come back in.
He's sleeping.
Yeah.
He's sleeping. Ron.
Oh, no, I'm not asleep. What's up?
Okay. Yeah.
Look, man, that was funny.
My headlines weren't funny. My headlines were true. That was
Your
not the
headlines were
Babylon
not.
Bee.
Your headlines were not funny. They were very
But that's
accurate
not
and much
the Babylon
appreciated.
Bee.
And very
But
boring.
what was? No, your headlines aren't boring.
That's it. I'm done.
Your
No,
headlines
your
are great.
headlines aren't
I love
boring.
your headlines,
Hey,
Donna.
don't go any place.
She was walking off the set.
Little D. Come on back in here, little D. So, would you like to do
No,
another
because these are
headline?
kind of serious, and it's sort of a downer. Let's do. This is the Babylon Bee. This is actually the Babylon Bee.
All right.
And quite honestly, I think it's true. 8 disturbing signs that a president is planning to become an oppressive dictator. This is true. Number 1,
Yeah, we've got one.
puts kids in cages. Yep, he did that, not Trump. And they're still in cages, quite honestly. Pretends to be a senile old man as an excuse to forget about civil rights. Has an evil henchwoman that chuckles at questions about human tragedies. Talks in secret coded language disguised as old man gibberish. Corn Pop was a bad dude. To give commands to his secret police. Great KGB tactic. Sniffs hair. Has his dog attack anyone who displeases him. Threatens to nuke everyone. That's true. He said that too.
Well, he's
he said,
actually
we have
doing
nukes.
all that, yeah.
He's done all that. This is the Babylon Bee, but this is actual news as well. This is scary. This is really scary.
All right, I think it's time for a lighthearted moment in the show, ladies and gentlemen, because all this serious stuff that Donna's been talking about, Ron and I are like twitching that we need to have. Well, Ron's twerking, from what I can tell.
I get 1/2 hour a week. I can't even do my headline.
We're like Ron,
Yes,
come back
yes.
in here. I need
Yes,
some support. Have we been giving her the time she needed to do these headlines?
I got more
Of
in than I
course.
normally do.
Of course.
I got more in than I normally
When you were writing your notes, so she did headlines
Look,
while you wrote
I'll
your
have
notes.
this much more.
There's my
Yeah.
note.
Exactly.
You know, when I bring it in.
She did headlines while I was snoozing. Yeah.
And I wondered why the Chiron was the first guest.
Sorry.
Hey, but listen, we want this to be an educational show too.
Oh, we do?
Now, what many of you don't know, and
Yes.
I'm being serious about this, when I was at the University of Tennessee, I think it was my sophomore year, I actually took an elective and I tried to take something that would just be a lot of fun for me to do. So I taught driver's education. True story.
I'm
I
teaching
do
it now, as a matter of fact, to my daughter.
Are you really?
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, I was teaching on behalf of the University of Tennessee.
That's scary
Okay.
when kids start to drive.
So I got in trouble. I ended up actually failing the course that I was teaching driver's ed to people, because I didn't feel like the appropriate way to teach people how to drive was in a parking lot with orange cones. You want to drive, we need to go
Get
out
out
into
on the
the real
street.
world and drive. That's right. So I did the maneuvers in the parking lot, and once I was comfortable with my 2 or 3 passengers my students that I had, man, we're off to McDonald's. That's where we went, because I figured if they could get through a drive-through without messing up the driver ed car, I was accomplishing something. So we went probably, 12, 14 miles off of campus, up a 4-lane, because I wanted them to learn how to drive on a
That's
4-lane.
scary.
This is a true story.
But they have permits, so
This
they're
is-
allowed to go out on the road, right?
Well,
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, all right.
but I wasn't allowed to take them out on the road. That was the problem. So at any rate, this was successful. We ordered some McDonald's. I showed them how to eat in the car in the parking lot of
Drive
the
with her
McDonald's.
knee. You got to drive with your knee.
No, we didn't go that
I can
route.
do that.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
really good at that.
But we didn't go that route. I was being a good guy.
But
Good.
you failed. You failed the course.
I
And he has a CDL,
pissed.
folks, now. He
Yeah.
has a CDL, and he bribes the dust.
Well, I
He's
don't
a
drive
dust
a-
bride.
He
I
bribed
don't
the
do that
dust.
anymore. But listen, here's the point.
Honeymooners.
One of
fans
the
will get
things that we taught that I taught these kids, and they excelled at it, was how to parallel park. And there's been a video that's viral on social media and whatever platforms you find this stuff on. And Ron, if you don't mind, let's fire up the how not to parallel park. Nope. Get out. Arthur. Nope. Don't ever do that. Nope. Doesn't help. Nope. No, bad.
Oh, right in the third.
Got to cut the wheel.
You got to cut the wheel when you get to the rear bumper.
No, not gonna work. Here comes the helper.
Someone's going to get mushed.
Now you got to watch this to the end, ladies and gentlemen.
Nope, not quite. Try it again. One more time.
There we go.
Hey,
Oh,
finally.
stop.
Did you hit the
Oh,
bumper?
congratulations.
All right, and now we have to. Hey,
Well,
That's-
look on
that's
that
how
woman's
not to do
face.
that.
What do you think she was thinking? What the heck? She
I
could've
sent that
backed the
straight to
car
my
up
daughter,
all
and
the
I said, we are working on parallel parking this week.
there you go. You
But I
got to
remember
work
what
on the
you're
parallel
supposed to
parking.
do. You're supposed to turn back when you're parallel with the rear end of the other
That's
car.
right.
But you're supposed to close. You're supposed to pull up really close to the other car. That's going to
Well,
be in
you're
front.
the expert at this.
Oh, I
Ladies
can-
and gentlemen, she had to do this every day or every night in New York City.
You work
Oh,
in New York
absolutely.
City. You know how to parallel park. But
What's the
believe it or not, I
percentages of
actually
people
failed.
who fail parallel parking?
I
on their
failed
driver's
it. I actually failed it. I
Everybody
had a 67. I'm going to date myself. I took my driver's test in a 67 Bonneville. That damn thing
You took your
was about
driver's test in
35 feet
67.
long.
That was a
No,
boat.
That's in
It was a
1967.
boat. They don't give you
I thought
any
I'd get
room.
hit.
It was well after 1967, but my father never sold cars. He kept them forever. So it was a 67 Bonneville. It had dents all over it. So he gave it to me. And I pulled a horse trailer with it. The thing went like 200,000 miles without even having a transmission cooling system. But anyhow, I failed parallel parking big time. You should see me parallel park now, because after working in New York for 30 years, I can thread a needle with an F-350.
You can. But
Better
you
than
can't
you.
get an F-350 through the bank teller.
No. Yeah, I actually have done that too. I've made it through, but it's too much of a pain in the neck.
It
so
is.
what I do is I park
It is a big
about
pain.
2 cars back and I
All right,
walk up.
do
and
another
then they try
headline.
to tell me I can't walk up. I said, my car's right there. It's a dually. There's a reason why I have to walk up to do my banking.
Hey,
If the
Ron,
bank is
come
even
on in
open.
for this last headline that she's going to do.
It's not
Okay?
last headlines. More
All
other
right,
stuff.
second to the
Well, it's
last.
just a bunch of different things.
third to the
Remember
last.
Kevin McCarthy, who to me is totally useless, and I wish
All right,
Donald
and we
Trump
have to react, Ron. We have to react
all
the
right.
same way. So we got to follow each other.
Kevin McCarthy now says he stayed in Frank Luntz's apartment in D.C. to care for Frank after he suffered a stroke a full year earlier, and he lives by himself and he has no family members to take care of him. Make sure he takes his meds and exercises because he doesn't have family to help him. No evidence Luntz had health problems at the time, by the way, folks. That was 1 year earlier, and McCarthy's polls continue to tank, even with Republicans. Can I talk to Donald Trump here for a minute? I realize you want to run for president, but I think it would be awesome to try to do a run for Speaker of the House. Why are you looking at me now?
I'm listening to
You
the
realize
headline.
the Speaker of the House does not have to be a member of Congress, although if he ran in South Florida, he probably would win too. All right, I'm done. Talk to the hand.
Oh, is it this one? Oh,
But
no.
Donald, is that what that is? Is that what
No,
talk
we
to
were
the
just-
hand?
we were high-fiving.
We were trying to stay quiet.
I give up.
You don't have to give up.
Step
Don't give
right up
up.
and get your COVID shot. All you have to do is go to your front door. The government will be there for you.
Let me interject something on that whole
Hey,
little
what about
thought.
well,
Hold on, Fiducia. Don't come to our doors. Don't come to our front door. Don't come to the garage doors. Don't come to the back door.
We have
don't
dogs.
Don't come to the basement
We
door
have ammo.
asking us to take that vaccine. Because Donna Fiducia will put her boot inside your ass and kick you off our property. That's how that's going
Well, they
down,
were
right?
on your property for about a mile and a half before they got to your front door. I'm just
It's
saying.
true.
Ron,
But here's
is that
the
not
point.
called trespassing? We got signs
Oh,
We
up,
got
buddy.
signs.
please.
there.
They trespassed
But
for
what
30
about-
minutes before they got to your door.
It's
That's
true.
right.
What about Biden saying if someone knocks on your door, take a shotgun and shoot through it?
Well, we're
Does
not
that-
going to do
does
that
that
because
count?
we're
No,
not dumbasses like Biden.
I mean, can you imagine what he
We'll
has
just go
said
old school
and done?
whooping ass on them.
We will make it a very unpleasant experience for you. You will survive. We're not going to bring guns. We're not going to pull guns on you. But I'm going to tell you, you get Donna Fiducia size 7.5 out of your ass, that's going to be a big accomplishment
Well-
because she's going to have it so far up in there, you're going to be tasting shoe leather.
And you bought a new rifle yesterday.
Did.
Yes,
Ron
you did.
picked up a 30-30.
A 30-30?
Well, 30-30.
Oh,
he
there you go.
He actually hit a post, one of our posts in our horse field, about 150 yards, I think.
Not bad.
It was pretty.
You
it
got
was
some
pretty scary.
distance out there to shoot
Shoot a hole in
and
the
practice. Yeah.
Yep.
Sight that
Well,
baby in.
unfortunately, we're out of time, folks.
That's right. We got to go to break. Got a big show coming up, ladies and
Thankfully,
gentlemen.
we're out of time on this one. I thought I got some good headlines
did.
in there,
You did. You
Despite-
got about 12 seconds.
despite the headwinds.
Say what you're going to say, Donna.
Eliana Brooks will be coming up, as well as Michael Daugherty. Stay tuned right here on Cowboy Logic and cowboylogic.us.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
We are chasing a dream. One that tests our grit, our faith, our courage to do what it takes to go all the way. You see, the difference between good and legendary is a split second. But you see, there's something even closer. This dream calls us. It unites us. Here's to those who lead this life.
Welcome back to Cowboy Logic, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Don NEUEN. And let me be the first to welcome you back to tonight's absolutely riveting episode of Cowboy Logic Radio. Boy, have we got a whopper for you on this one.
Yeah, we
Listen,
really do.
Before you start with the intro on this, Donna, I want to say something very quickly about our guest that's coming up, ELIANA Brooks. Ladies and gentlemen, we didn't know ELIANA until Rock the Red back whenever that was, the beginning of June, up in South Carolina. She was one of the featured speakers, and she absolutely shut the room down. She shut Donna and I down. Her story is remarkable. And the important thing that you guys need to know is that her name is ELIANA Brooks. Say her name. Say her name. And she's going to tell you why that's so important. Donna, let's do a quick bio, and then let's get into it with ELIANA Brooks.
ELIANA is a founding member of Warrior Bride Ministries. She committed to partnering with God to walk out healing for the body of Christ, especially those who have been victims of childhood sex trauma. She specializes in rehab of child sex trafficking victims under the age of 12 and is an expert in child sexual exploitation and satanic ritual abuse. With in-depth study and hands-on experience, she is co-writing her second book, The Will, Redeeming the Satanic Soldier, with Warrior Bride Ministries founder Kelly Hawley. And this is going to serve as a manual to equip those who feel called to minister to satanic ritual abuse survivors. And with what's going on at the border, boy, it's getting worse. Child sex trafficking victims have the hope of being rescued. ELIANA's passion is to see these children healed and whole with the forever families that they deserve. And she is the program director of Warrior Bride Ministries. ELIANA Brooks, welcome to Cowboy Logic.
Welcome. Thank you guys so much for having me.
All right, before we get into this, ladies and gentlemen, you're probably wondering why ELIANA is sitting in a car. And we're going to explain that very briefly, and then we're going to let her do the talking. ELIANA is on her way back as we're recording this interview. She's on her way back to Georgia. She may have broken into the state of Georgia at this point from South Carolina. But she was up in South Carolina speaking at yet another convention with our buddy Presley Stutz. And she's on her way back home. We've stopped her. She's got her camera set up in her car, and we're going to let her talk. So don't let the background distract you. She's a true warrior here because she's doing this interview straight from her car.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about where you were this weekend and in general, the premise of this past weekend and the fact that you are traveling around the country trying to wake people up to the abuse and the horrors that is child sex trafficking.
Yeah, so I was at Liberty for All in Spartanburg, South Carolina. It was an awesome event. I got to meet some amazing speakers like Pastor Greg Locke and Professor Toto. I actually got an invitation to be with Professor Toto for an entire week in the end of September to speak to 3,000 patriots. So I am traveling the country, and I'm very busy, but not too busy for my Don and Donna. And I do have a message to tell people, because sometimes we think that border crisis and all of that is so removed from us, and we have no idea the effects of border policy and how they trickle down. And I'm a direct result of that, because like they said, I was brought across the border as a child and sold into sex trafficking. And we see so much trafficking at Warrior Bride Ministries, all of which is happening right here in the United States, right here in your backyard. And a lot of those kids are being brought across the border.
Yeah.
All right, let's back things up for the viewers that were not in South Carolina with us. You're not real sure where or when you were born. Am I correct?
Nope.
Okay.
No clue.
Because you were brought up through Mexico and across the U.S. border when you were a little teeny kid.
Yeah,
and
probably somewhere around the age of 3, which would be between 30 and 32.
Okay. Now, when you were in South Carolina with us, I told the viewers earlier that you shut the room down. 400, 500 people. You shut us down. We didn't know what to say. And you did it without getting graphic. And I know you could get graphic. It would be painful for you. We don't need that. You don't need that to tell this story most effectively. If you don't mind, we don't have as much time this time when we've got you here. Can you walk the viewers through your life and what ended up happening to you?
Well, I was sold into a church that functions as a cult, what the world would call satanic ritual abuse. I was raised in a basement with 8 other kids. I'm the only one that is still alive. 9 of us total. One is in the hospital with permanent brain damage. I was probably, I want to say 9 years old the night that it happened. I still remember what it sounded like, because we were in a concrete basement, and I remember his skull cracking on the floor. And I thought he was dead up until a few years ago when I found out he was permanently hospitalized with brain damage. But the rest of them are dead. No one wants to talk about this stuff, but my brother committed suicide because, the entire world said we were a conspiracy. And some of us OD'd right there on that same basement floor. And some of them were sold for organ harvesting. Some of them were sacrificed. But I'm the only one that's left. And I've seen some stuff. I've seen the ins and outs of trafficking and how it's directly related to the porn industry, to drug trade, to all of that. I've had my own children that were sacrificed and in front of me in satanic rituals, the things that people don't want to talk about. And then I grew up and I ran away. No one did me, but I ran and walked through a healing process, which was equally ugly. People think, oh yeah, praise the Lord, you escaped off there, because every single memory that I have, I might have lived one time physically, but I relived multiple times mentally until I was able to heal. And that was hard enough. And now I sit, as you said, the program director, and sometimes I get to relive my own trauma through little kids that come into my office who have been trafficked, and tell me the same stories. I think I told some of you guys at Rock the Red about Belle. She's still probably the client that I'll never forget, because she was 7 years old and she used to beg me for her necklace. She wanted her necklace. She missed her necklace. Could I buy her a necklace? And it took me a couple sessions to realize that her necklace was a dog collar, and that she had grown up much similar to me in a basement, chained up like a dog, eating on all fours. And these are the stories that people don't talk about, that everyone wants to say isn't happening, because they're told it's not happening, because it's too hard to face that human beings are capable of doing such heinous things, but they're happening. I'm not a conspiracy. It's not a lie. We saw 263 clients last year, and 94% of them were trafficked. Are all of us lying? You have to start asking yourself that.
You mentioned organ harvesting. And we're hearing the Chinese Communist Party is doing that to the Uyghurs. You're saying it's happening here also in the United States.
Definitely. I mean, you can't, because of our government, not that I think we should have free health insurance, because I don't want socialism, but we have to have regulated pharmaceutical companies. It shouldn't cost people hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a kidney when they can get a kidney in Mexico for $10,000. So why not get a kidney from a child that doesn't matter for even cheaper? You know, if your kid was sick, you would do anything for it, and you don't care where it came from. All of this goes back to governmental legislation. We don't want to talk about the commodification of human beings, but kids are commodities, especially. Adults can be as well, but kids are commodities in the United States. And commodity manipulation by the government is the direct link to child trafficking, whether it be for sex or organ harvesting or adrenochrome or anything like that. You can see it, and most people think commodity manipulation is illegal, but commodity manipulation is done by legislation. All it takes is the passing of a bill. I'll give you an example, guys. When Obama was president, an EpiPen cost $400, okay? My son needed 2 to go to school, so I paid $800 every year for an EpiPen. When Trump became president, he dropped those prices. Now, with our current administration, the EpiPen prices are back up. What's that matter? What's that have to do with child trafficking? Well, if you Google, you don't even have to go to DuckDuckGo for this. If you Google it, EpiPen, it says right on the EpiPen, don't expose to sunlight, because when you expose EpiPen to sunlight, it turns to adrenochrome. So what's this have to do with trafficking? Well, if you can't get your adrenochrome from a natural source, you have to get it from an artificial source. If you can't torture kids and kill them, then you have to get it from an artificial source. Just like if you don't have breast milk, you have to get formula. All of these, what seem like obscure price changes and stuff like that, are commodity manipulation for the commodification of human beings in the United States, and is done at the presidential level by passing a bill.
Well, I know that he popped up the price of insulin threefold as soon as Biden got into office, and Trump had lowered that. And we have one friend, actually a former driver of Don's, who's like, all of a sudden my insulin is $800 a month. And it was like $200 or $250 before, even if that's high, in my opinion. But the pharmaceutical companies are basically, in my opinion, also running what's going on here in Washington, D.C.
Yeah,
they're huge.
But Eliana's saying that they're able to do that because of legislation that's being passed. Eliana, who are some of the people through your life, and I'm not asking for names, obviously, but what types of people in our communities are engaging as clientele in this sex trafficking that's going on throughout our country? What kind of individuals are doing this?
The individuals that you absolutely least expect. Yes, we talk about politicians on a high level and celebrities and all of that who are deeply involved, but it has to start somewhere, you know? And it's not what people think. Like, I've been with people in the car and they're like, oh, lock your doors, we're in a dangerous neighborhood. No, what you're looking for is rich people who need power and control. Your average everyday businessman that goes to work, that's where it starts, you know, and that's where most kids start. And then it escalates from there. And the price tag on your body gets bigger and bigger, because whether or not we want to acknowledge it, each kid wears a price tag. And it's determined by a lot of things. It's determined by how they look, if they're a boy or a girl, where they came from, if someone's potentially looking for them. You know, kids are profiled and priced based on that. Is there a chance that this kid is ever going to make it back to society like me? No one thought that I was going to grow up to be this, or I wouldn't know the things that I know. You know, survivors know secrets that are never supposed to be uttered, because we are profiled and classified based on our likeliness to survive. Whether you fight, whether you don't fight, whether the kids are drug dependent or not drug dependent, you know, and the higher your price tag, the higher commodity value you have and the more celebrity involvement and governmental officials you have involved.
Wow.
Most
And
people don't want to believe that this is an organized operation, but it is. Like, it's really not just like, oh, I'm going to grab this kid and sell it to someone. This is organized crime at the absolute highest level.
One thing that I had heard is fentanyl and other drugs and things of that nature, it's a one-time sale. A child can get sold over and over again, and each child, they estimate, could bring the person who's sex trafficking this innocent child somewhere in the neighborhood of $250,000 per child. I
think that is a grossly disgusting, underestimated amount of money, Donna. And I'll tell you why. Because, like you said, you can sell a gun once, you can sell a drug one time, but kids are reusable commodities, and you can have sex with them multiple times. In 2019, the government did a study on the city of Atlanta, and in Atlanta alone, a child can make their pimp, or whatever you want to call it, $32,000 a week. You figure on average, kids are sold into child trafficking between 3 and 4, and either run or are killed between 15 and 17. That is a 15-year span at $32,000 a week. The price of a child trafficking victim is somewhere much closer to about $20 million.
Wow. There have been 100, I just heard a stat actually over the weekend, 167,000 illegals crossing the border just in the last 2 months alone. Some 30% were kids, maybe even higher, that had no parent. When we saw you at Rock the Red, there had been a story that morning of a little 5-year-old boy found in front of the wall, actually in Texas, crying. It might have been Arizona, crying, and authorities picked this kid up. You felt he was dropped there for the cartels to come and pick him up later, but they missed him. I mean, can you imagine this being allowed at our governmental level? It's insanity. It's total insanity.
Do you guys know a lot of the same people we travel with? I spent the weekend talking with Presley and John DeLemme and Christy and stuff. I want to go to the border. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I want to go to the border because I had friends that were there last week that sent me a video of 4 little girls that were dropped on the bank of a river, and they found them. So obviously whoever was coming to pick them up isn't going to be like, oh, hey, they're mine. They're going to wait till people go away. They had been calling the border control for 2 hours, and no one had come. Why isn't Border Patrol responding to it? Probably higher-ups are telling them not to, but I want to go to the border, and I want to say, you guys don't understand. You don't understand the ramifications of your actions. The entire country was up in arms last year about one person dying. These kids die every single day, maybe not physically, but emotionally and spiritually and mentally. And where is the outrage in the country for these hundreds of thousands of kids that are dying? Do you not realize that by not responding, you're allowing this to happen? You're participating. You might not be having sex with them, but you're not stopping it either. Are you not equally culpable?
ELIANA, I'm going to get you to the border, okay? We'll talk about it after the show. I'm going to get you to the border. I was just
thinking that same thing.
I got a way to get you to the border.
Let me ask you a question that, being so naive in this department, quite honestly, are these kids given up by their parents? Are they stolen by the cartels as they come up through South America? Where are these kids coming from? In general?
I would say yes. I know that's a blanket answer, but you have lots of things going on. The Mexican cartel rules their citizens as terrorists, so they can take their kids, yeah. And then you have kids coming from Central and South America that have no one really protecting them, so they can easily disappear. But unfortunately, you have tons of people who are being fooled into the fact that their kids are being brought here. They pay. to give their kids into trafficking. I'll give you $5,000 to take my kid to America for a better life. And they have no idea what happens to them from there. So we can't always be mad at the parent. And that's hard for me to do because I don't know what the circumstances were for my biological parents. I just think like, hey, I would never do that. But we have no idea why these kids are where they are. There's multiple reasons why it could happen, but there are families that generally believe like, hey, my kid's going to the United States, they're going to become a doctor, and they're in someone's basement somewhere tied up being raped every night.
Ladies and gentlemen, you need to go to warriorbrideministries.com. warriorbrideministries.com. Eliana, we've got plenty of time here. We got a little over 8 minutes in the segment. How can our viewers and our listeners on AM, FM, and radio stations, how are they able to reach out and connect with your organization, and how can they help, whether they have money or not? Because obviously if we've got people that can contribute financially, that's a great thing. But if they don't have those resources, how can they help? How can they become a warrior in the Warrior Bride Ministries?
And you know what? I get in trouble all the time for saying this, but it's not about the money. You know, we have functioned for the past almost 2 years with a shoestring budget. We don't charge clients for anything. We don't get paid. I don't get paid to do this. Our founder doesn't get paid to do this. We work probably about 60 hours a week. And if our rent is paid, then you can come. It doesn't matter. So I always get in trouble because I'm like, the money doesn't matter. Obviously, we're growing and we need your money, but there are so many other ways that you can help. If you go online and fill out a volunteer form, we have administrative work that you can do, scheduling our appointments, calling clients and making sure their paperwork's done, you know, sharing it on social media, creating posts for us. Every time I have to stop and make Facebook posts, that's a client that I could be seeing. We have a waiting list a mile long at this point. You know, you can tangibly help with survivors who are older by going through training and becoming a mentor with them, being that person that they can call and talk to as they walk through their healing. You know, they don't need professional help 24/7, but if at 9 o'clock at night they're having memories and flashbacks and they just need someone to listen to. I have kids in the family, like I can't always answer the phone. Do you want to partner with someone and walk them through this healing process? And just, you don't need the right answers. You just have to be like, you know, Jesus loves you and you probably shouldn't kill yourself tonight. It's a stupid idea. You're beautiful. It doesn't matter what happened, and be that listening ear. You know, there are lots of tangible ways that you can help without being in Georgia. And if you are in Georgia, I can put you to work. Don't worry. There's lots of stuff you can do. So do you actually offer workshops to teach people how to work with people, or are you looking for trained professionals in the psychological business to work with these people? How does it work? We have trained staff. We partner with licensed medical professionals and psychiatrists and stuff like that. We have an entire team here in Georgia that we partner with, but we also do training workshops for, I guess, what you would consider lay people, our volunteers that just want to understand the healing process, how they work on healing, how they can partner with them in healing, some things to expect in the healing process. So we kind of have the whole gamut. We have just like volunteer mentors that are really just good friends that aren't going to like, if I start telling you part of my story and you respond with shock or disgust or terror, then I'm not going to feel like I can talk to you. So if we can train you and you can kind of learn to get those responses under control or not be surprised by it anymore, then you can start working with survivors and, and just giving them a sounding board to be like, hey, this happened and I'm remembering it right now and I'm not sure what to do. Can we just talk?
Wow, that's a great perspective.
We got less than 5 minutes. There's two things I'd love for you to touch on. Number one, how you escaped. It's a phenomenal story. Secondly,
I ran.
Yeah, I know you did for quite a while. Secondly, for parents that have young children, maybe teenage children, What do they need to be looking for as a potential sign that their child may be walking down a path that could get them snatched and enter into this very, very dark world?
So my story, like I said, I ran at 17. I had the unique opportunity to be separated from my abusers in the hospital. And the doctor said that standard, hey, change your clothes and I'll be back. And when he came back, I was gone. I ran in the middle or the beginning of winter without shoes. And I just kept running, even though everything inside me begged to stop. And then even after I was settled, I had to run for a long time. And to some degree, my security risk has greatly increased since I've started talking. This week we're going to have a conversation about what my security needs are moving forward, because the threats are pretty incredible. So I think you're always running, but that one day I did run, and here I am. But as far as people and their kids, Don, it's not what people made it out to be. Probably 2 or 3 years ago, there was a huge, and I'm still trying to figure it out because it was really more of a sidetrack than anything. This huge push to be like, oh, watching airports for kids that might be trafficked and stuff like that. And yeah, that does happen on occasion, but that's not the norm. Like if you just kidnapped a kid, do you want to go through TSA? I mean, that doesn't even make mental sense. You have to watch out for these small airports. Like we have an airport in Cobb County where you could pick a kid up on the corner and be on your private plane and out of United States airspace before anyone even realized it. So, I mean, pay attention at an airport, yeah, but you're not going to be trying to smuggle kids through the TSA. That just doesn't make mental sense. But as far as parents, I mean, always keep an eye on your kids. We live in a society where we have children and expect other people to raise them, whether it be the school system or the television or YouTube. It blows my mind that people have kids that are 10 and 11 years old and they're like, oh, I have no idea what they're doing. My 11-year-old, I know what she's doing all the time. That's why I had her, because I want to be a part of her life. So keep an eye on your kids. Know who they're talking to. We do have this huge epidemic, and we were just talking to a woman a couple months ago whose daughter started getting these promises of stardom and fame. And, you sing so great. Come to Hollywood. We'll hook you up. And now she's in a satanic cult being sold, So if your kids are pursuing stardom in any form, be involved. Just be involved in your kid's life, I think is the bottom line. Is have kids because you want to have kids, because you want to raise kids, because you love your kids and you want to be a part of their life. Don't expect everyone else to be looking out for them.
Yeah. Well said.
Well, Eliana, when you give a speech, and anybody who can have a chance to see her speak, we highly recommend it, because it's eye-opening. And it makes
the bottom line,
think,
it will change you.
It will change you. And hopefully it will spur you to help as well. WarriorBrideMinistries.com. But what she says so many times is, say this person's name, and it would be somebody who was injured or killed and trafficked for years. And there were so many of them. And you kept saying, say her name. Say her name too. Eliana Brooks. And we thank you so much for joining us here. Again, folks, WarriorBrideMinistries.com. If you go on that website, you can find everything that they're doing up to date. And she just got back again from South Carolina with that Liberty for All convention with our good buddy Presley Stutz. And that's where we met Eliana as well, was at the Rock the Red that Presley put together about 2 months ago now.
Let me say one last thing before we get out of here. We're at seconds, ladies and gentlemen. WarriorBrideMinistries.com. Eliana Brooks, say her name. Say her name, ladies and gentlemen. It is extremely powerful, her message. We're going to be back. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Check us out on the web at cowboylogic.us.
This is where work ethic is forged in fire. where we push our limits and pull our weight. This is where trails are broken, but traditions never. And where we forever ride towards new horizons. Because this is where legendary is a way of life. Wrangler, long live cowboys.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm going to pass the savings directly on to you. Go to MyPillow.com right now to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. For example, you can get my premium MyPillows regularly $69.98, now just $29.98, the lowest price ever.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
A cowboy doesn't live his life 8 to 5. He clocks in when sun comes up and unsaddles when the work is done. He lives by the code. His words are his bond, and tradition is his legacy. And if you're looking for this man, you can always find him under a Resist All cowboy hat. Resist All. We live it every day.
Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia.
And I'm Don Neuen. And this is Cowboy Logic Radio.
Cowboys didn't dance, didn't wear designer shirts. When their hearts were filled with memories, their bodies filled with dirt. They would sit around the campfire and exchange a piercing glares. Back when the West was really wild, cowboys didn't dance.
And welcome back to Cowboy Logic, everyone. I'm Donna Fiducia.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. That's Donna, and I'm Don Neuen. Let's not ever forget that, ladies and gentlemen. Back to you, Donna.
We should actually tell everybody, because we have so many new viewers, that the reason why you have to blurt your name out all the time is because being married to a Jersey Italian, most of the time you never even get to say anything.
That's right, Donna. I don't ever get the opportunity to voice my opinion or engage with the audience unless I radio puke, something I learned to do many years ago, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honing my skills at being able to be loquacious and engaging while I'm dealing with a New Jersey Italian. So let's get down to business, Donna.
Jeez, I'm like annoyed already at your voice. Okay, we have to get to business here because we got a lot of good stuff.
We're going to have a good time this hour.
Okay. We are going to be speaking to one Michael Daugherty. He is a government whistleblower by necessity and CEO of the Cyber Education Foundation and founder of the Justice Society. His story is of victimization by a cybersecurity company linked to federal agencies. So then he went ahead and wrote a book called The Devil Inside the Beltway, the shocking expose of the U.S. government's surveillance and overreach into cybersecurity, medicine, and small business. He's going to discuss vaccines and testing for the coronavirus and a whole bunch of other good stuff. And you can find all the great work that he does at thejusticesociety.com. So, ladies and gents, please welcome Michael Daugherty, his first appearance here on Cowboy Logic. How you doing, Mike?
I'm good. How are y'all?
All right, we're hanging in there. Tell us a little bit about your story. I mean, I explained it obviously in the intro, but this is something that you think is going to happen in communist countries. It's not supposed to happen here in the United States.
Right, and I was the early adapter because this started in 2008, and my book came out in 2013. And so back then, people really didn't believe me. A lot of people believe me now. And that's why I wrote the book. The book's really a narrative. It's just this is how they do it. It's written like a story with all their letters and everything of what it's like to go through a government investigation and how really the psychological warfare of it. And I'm just a healthcare entrepreneur, was not in politics at all. I founded a medical laboratory. I had it in Atlanta. We had 26,000 square feet. We tested for prostate cancer and bladder cancers. We had patients from all over the United States. We weren't just an Atlanta thing. We were a national company. And we had 700,000 patients. One day the phone rings. A guy says, I found your file of 9,000 patients in cyberspace. And he wouldn't tell us anything about it, even an IP address, unless we paid him. I wouldn't pay him. Next thing you know, the government's calling me and investigating me. And just because I'm raised by Detroit police officers, and I think I just sopped up this intuition. And I had phenomenal tech people that were working for me that just didn't believe any of this and thought this guy was a crook. So when the government starts investigating you and they're ignoring the crook, and then you know they're working with the crook, and you're saying they're working with the crook, and people think you're crazy, when you've got a medical career where no one thought you were crazy, it's terrifying. And then you learn step by step how lip service comes from Congress and the judiciary and the media, and you're really divided and conquered, and no one's helping you, and they think you're asking them to help you when you're asking them to save a medical facility, and no one cares. And it's like theater, and it was utterly terrifying, and it just sort of woke me up. I don't think you can ever get woken up like this unless the tree falls down on you. And when you tell people, there's a large gap in America right now where people don't know how this impacts them. I think with this election stuff going on, people are getting it, but we're very behind the curve on how when the government's doing that to someone else, you better care that they could do it to you, because by the time they get to you, it's too late for you. And so we have to clean this stuff up.
Were you essentially, did they have ransomware, or no, this was actually the government coming after you?
No, this is a company calling me up and then saying, we'll fix this for $40,000. And because I wouldn't pay him, and they got close to the government, and the government wanted to investigate all these companies that he said were bad, he only turned over companies that didn't hire him. And then what we found out years later, because the government starts investigating me like I'm the bad guy. And in administrative courts with agencies, you don't get to see the case against you. There's so many facets that happens that are against what we think our rights are. And you realize you don't have any rights. There's all sorts of ways they can come at you. So it took years to find out what really happened. And it all had to come out outside the courtroom, because the courts side with the government and don't give you discovery. So the book cracked open a whistleblower and then the book got Daryl Ice's attention. He had a congressional hearing and he put out a report, and I testified in front of Congress. And these are the type of things you would think would be watershed events that would crack it open, only to watch congressmen and senators bury the story from both sides of the aisle. The media not report it because they don't want to tick off the political powers that be, because the political powers that be wouldn't give them future story. GOP people that are potted plants not doing anything. I mean, it was really unbelievable. It's like calling 911 and they pick up the phone and just don't believe you that your house is burning down. And so, that's why it took so long. But we finally did win the judge lottery. We did get a judge in the 11th Circuit in 2016 and 18. Rulings take years to come out. That wrote a scathing ruling and awarded me $800,000, or my company, for fees and costs, after we spent about $16 million in pro bono defense.
I was going to say, what did it cost you?
Yeah. You lose the company, you lose everything. The whole company was closed in 2014. It wasn't bankrupt, but we stopped operating as a medical facility. We still are around to litigate and investigate. So it's an amazing, they could just drown you. I mean, and when you win, which is what is winning, you were right the whole time, so sorry, no, you can't anything back. They just silence you. I mean, the power of the media is in distorting story and killing story. And so you get, I mean, look we saw CPAC today. It puts their story up, puts their video up, and it's already taken down off YouTube. I mean, the amount of silencing that goes on in this country through the media is terrifying. It's like Pravda. It's like Cold War Russia. And I can't believe I'm saying that, but I've seen it.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot that none of us are believing that we're saying. Quite frankly, I started saying things about the time that you started having some problems, which was about mid-2008.
Yeah.
And, I started getting labeled a racist, and I got, a bunch of problems that were thrown my way because I was simply disagreeing with things. Michael, what agencies, I'm assuming FBI, but what are the alphabet agencies were coming after you? DOJ, FBI, anybody else?
No, it was really the Federal Trade Commission that came after us because they said we had weak cybersecurity practices and we were violating their Section 5 of the FTC Act. And it was a civil complaint. The problem is it's a reputational damage. Today, if you lose 9,000 patients, it doesn't even make the news. In 2008, it's a big deal. And so what happened was, for the time, it was a huge thing. Now it's a joke because we didn't know what a breach was back then. Now we're like, oh, we've lost 100 million people. Oh, well, what are you going to do? And so the world's very different. And if it would happen today, they wouldn't have that kind of power over me about the reputational damage. But anyway, and then only through the whistleblower did we find out that the FBI was working with this bad actor. And they were using the bad actor to search out for child pornographers. And so they thought that was a noble act. And and only in 2019 did we find out through deposition testimony that the very weapon that this company was using to break into thousands of companies, not just mine, was given to them by the FBI. Now, first of all, it took 11 years to find that out. It was never therefore allowed in any court. The courts didn't allow barely any discovery. So the discovery that it came out in was after a judge had held off. Oh my goodness. Well, that was big. Pardon me.
He's back. He's back, ladies and gentlemen. What a recovery. What a recovery. Hey, given the fact that just happened, Michael, let me ask you this. Lately in the news, we're seeing that with regard to January 6th, that there may be some relationships that were created that are giving some agent provocateurs and some inside people, whether they knew it or not, that were involved in this January 6th situation up in Washington, D.C., the insurrection. And that the FBI
insurrection
very well may be involved in some of that. Do you know anything about that based on what you had experiences with?
Everything Tucker Carlson said, and I see that, and it totally fits with me. I mean, because I know, I had friends in the White House and legal area that told me, they were shocked when they talked to DOJ about cybersecurity criminals, and the DOJ said, yeah, we work with cybersecurity criminals, and they give us a lot of leads, so we don't prosecute them. I don't think so. What happens is, in my case, I believe that the FBI does incompetent work in the beginning by not vetting, by not appreciating what they have, by putting weapons in the hands of the wrong people, even within the organization. And when any government person makes a huge mistake, there's no mea culpa. There's hiding and burying, because they have a lot of power to bury and hide errors, especially errors that threaten other lives. My case, I think, is the fast and furious of cybersecurity. It's the U.S. government weaponized bad guys, and the weapons were turned against Americans. Lots of Americans. So what does the government do? Cover it up. The government does all sorts of things that we would consider illegal and unethical to save the world. They are allowed to lie their head off in pursuit of justice. So you can see a politicized agency, which the FBI is absolutely a politicized agency, going through what happens to everyone that does bad things. It starts out with good intentions. It moves an inch and an inch, and next thing you know, you're 3 feet in. So I can certainly see them, trying to infiltrate organizations because someone on the left, which the left is very embedded in the government, starting with the Clintons who put young people in to grow up inside the organization. You have organizations that can't fire people. So you have all these leftists in the government lying in wait and growing up through their lives. And now these people are deep into adulthood and careers in their positions of power. And when the administrations change, they always just lie in wait for things to happen. And they were there to attack Trump or any Republican. I mean, let's not forget how much they hated George Bush at the time. They all talk like he's great now.
They love him now, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. Whatever serves their purpose. So I completely believe that it's just a whole combination of good intentions with incompetence. And then, again, this is all persecution through process. All these people now, and this has been going on for decades, folks, they get you to succumb by the threat of prosecution. They don't have due process. They induce you to break the law. Then they try to hold you accountable, and they do that very much on the right, where you can look. This is not equal justice for all. This is equal justice for whoever want to ignore who's on our side. So while they're screaming about a trumped up, thing on the 6th of January, they're completely ignoring the burning of America, which is destroying the lives of minorities, minority businessmen. Cities. I come from Detroit. I was a child during the Detroit riots. I know why Detroit didn't go through this. They've learned their lesson. And I watch this, and it's unbelievable what they get away with, and the constant gaslighting, turning January 6th into something bigger than it was, and ignoring the huge stuff, because they're the FBI and the DOJ, and that's it. Yeah. They control.
And there's no accountability, because if they bankrupt you, they have unlimited pockets for all this legal stuff that's going on. And that's right. One thing we said to Sidney Powell is, Discovery's going to be a bitch because Dominion is going after her and Fox and a whole bunch of other people. But all of a sudden, you kind of see Dominion laying low a little bit because of what's going on in Arizona. And what you just mentioned is where to me, I call it the Flynning of people, because they're basically doing what they did to Michael Flynn to people throughout the country, and it's finally starting to show a little bit.
Well, there's a gal that's in Georgia,
Susie Voiles. That's what I was going to say.
Same thing.
You know our good friend that Sally Grubbs very well, and Susie Voiles is like Sally. She's a fighter. She signed. She's in Fulton County though, and Sally's Cobb County now Republican rep, which is awesome. And, she put her money where her mouth is, and she ran and she won. And she's a fighter. Now, Susie Voiles apparently signed something where, it was a signed affidavit saying the illegality she saw in Fulton County. And the FBI or somebody went back and tried to say, well, retract that. Well, if she retracts an affidavit, she's going to jail because she signed an affidavit about this. So she wouldn't do that, because what she saw is what she saw. And now we're hearing Raffensperger, the Secretary of State, who a couple weeks ago tried to lay low a little bit and say, we're going to oversee Fulton County then on the state level because it was so corrupt. But now he's coming back and saying that he's going to start going after the Susie Voiles, the hundreds of people who signed affidavits in all of these swing states.
Same thing's happening in Michigan.
Yeah. And Michigan is going after the people who basically tried to file lawsuits against an illegal election, which we're all seeing definitely happen. And the way I look at it as a journalist is you're over the target if they're going after you, because you've got Merrick Garland now threatening Georgia and Arizona, and who knows what else he's going to threaten at this point.
So this has been going on for 100 years, and we're just finding out about it now in the media. Because we've broken and split off. So they're avenues, and they're losing control. And that's why they're turning up the heat, because they're losing control. And they started losing control the second Trump won, and they immediately turned into their election corruption mechanism higher than usual. What I see is that these things, I know these things have been going on forever. I mean, it's what they do. there's horror stories about Hoover. Okay, but this is all persecution through process. I call it the Eric Holder School of Law. Yeah, what I'm going to do to you is illegal. Yeah, you don't have a leg to stand on. Yeah, it's going to cost you a fortune. Yeah, I'll lose in 10 years, but really I won't lose because what I lose? Like, I won in court 12 years later. What'd I win?
The damage is done. The damage is done.
And so it's all about head on a spike intimidation. It's all about, well, I'm getting a salary as a government lawyer. I get my job. I lose. I don't really lose. I don't care. We win because we intimidate. It is the 21st century variation of 16th century intimidation, where we get someone that the whole crowd knows, and we put their head up on the bridge after we execute them. And the rumor mongering and the fear is what controls. There's no due process. There's no order. And they ache to keep you out of the judiciary. And and they intimidate judges not to get involved. And it takes, you have to be in the sunshine. So I always worked very hard when I was in my battle to be in the sunshine. And that's when because I knew it was safe. Because, when it's the O.J. Simpson trial and the whole world's watching, everything's copacetic. But when you're not watching, and they're not watching most things, then they have this bad behavior. There's no reporters that report this. They don't have the brain function or the patience to report it, number one. Number two, their audience in legal media is lawyers who know about all this and can't talk about it. Or won't. So it's very important that this stay in the sunlight. Very important. And I have 3 vocal golden retrievers. One just wanted to say hello.
Ours does that too. When you talk, it's like a kid on a telephone.
Yep,
When you're
they want to talk with you.
They want to talk with you.
Well,
here's I'm sorry, but you are suing Perkins Coie, which is
speaking of Eric Holder law.
Yeah, and the thing is, what you mentioned started in 2008. Gee, what happened in 2008? And the thing that always gets me is they say a government that ceases to be good ceases to be great. And to me, what we're seeing right now is Obama Part 3. It's his people that are running the ship right now. And this is what would have happened, God forbid, if Hillary Clinton ever got in now 6 years ago. And I think, hopefully, the only thing I can think, hopefully, is that
another nice recovery, Mike.
Is that people are waking up now after what happened with the election and are seeing exactly how the government is being weaponized against them. And it's like a color revolution, but here in America, you think it would never even be able to happen. And it's happening before our very eyes. And we only have like 3 minutes left in the segment, but I want to get to this Perkins Coie thing after the bottom of the hour. But the actual headline, I can't even understand it. So you're going to have to clarify this. Response to Perkins Coie reply to contestants' objection to verified applications for admission pro hoc vice.
Okay. So here's what
I'm a lawyer, but I'm not.
I'm not doing that. I'm suing Raffensperger and Ossoff and how do we say that? Raffensperger, whatever his name is. The Secretary of State. The idiot that we elected, and Warnock. Okay, for the election now, because that's Democrats, they hired Perkins Coie to parachute in and defend them. We take that as flattery, and we've gone to the judiciary going, no. Here's what this law firm's like, and here's what they do, and pro hoc vice means I'm lawyers outside from Georgia that want to be permitted to practice inside Georgia for this case. And they want to come in and practice inside Georgia for this case. And we've gone to the judge, no, and here's why. This is what they do. This is what they've done. This is why they're here. This is how they behave. And then we lay it out. And most people don't push back on them. They are hugely weaponized and hugely funded. And it is the DNC machine.
Yeah. Perkins Coie's huge. So it's prologue. I thought it was Vice. Vice. I don't know. It sounds like Vice.
You need to watch more episodes of Perry Mason, Donna.
I do. But Yeah, really. But it's getting to the point where it's not laughable, but it is laughable. We actually have a segment called Not the Bee, because the Babylon Bee actually makes more sense than actual news lately with the insanity that's going on. So we got about a minute and a half left in this segment. I want to get back to this Perkins Coie thing and what's going on in Georgia. And just real quick, if you can summarize this whole thing, well, where you are right now, let's put it that way, where you are right now in this case.
So in January, so in election law in Georgia, you have to file your case within 5 days of certification by the Secretary of State. That gives you no time to get your facts together, which is why all these suits with Trump were all over the place and failed. With the runoff, we had much more time to prepare, and we prepared for this and waited for Raffensperger to certify, which he didn't do until the day after Martin Luther King Day. So within 5 days of that, we certified saying, this runoff is illegal. It does not comply with Georgia law. It's not about Trump. It's about the Senate runoff. And we're saying it did not comply with election law. The software didn't comply with election law. The Stacey Abrams consent decrees did not comply. The behavior of what's going on is all wrong. And we are now we sued in Fulton County, which meant we had to be removed because judges in counties you sue can't hear those cases. We had transferred to Henry County to Judge Amero, and our first hearing is July 19th. And we are the only election case about this. There's other cases going on that are due process cases, but we're the only case that can change an election result of what happened in 2020.
Okay, Mike, hold on to that thought. We'll be back because I want to pursue this as well with Garland Favorito and what he's doing on Cowboy Logic. You're listening to Cowboy Logic Radio.
Well, if I had money, I'd tell you what I'd do. I'd go downtown, buy a Ford truck or two. I'm crazy about a Ford truck. Lord, I'm crazy about a Ford truck. I'm gonna buy me a Ford truck and cruise it up and down the road. I'm gonna buy me a Ford truck and cruise it up and down the road.
For the last 50 years, there's only been one truck built Ford tough.
Accuracy and range are a necessity. Now comfort is an option as well. Nemo Arms introduces the Omen 300 Win Mag. The Omen 300 is perfectly balanced for reduced recoil, creating sub-minute of angle accuracy. And fit with the tightest of tolerances. The Omen is offered in carbine or full-length models with a 10 or 14 round magazine. American made, owned, and designed. Nemo Arms is setting a new standard in modern sporting rifles. Find out more at nemoarms.com.
And welcome back to Cowboy Logic, everyone. We're before the break deep into conversation with all
Before
the
the break, Donna, you were showing us all of your Perry Mason legal skills,
well,
and I have to say, I was somewhat impressed.
No, you shouldn't have been impressed. It was kind of embarrassing. Verified applications for admission pro hoc Vice. I should know that if I'm Italian, right? Vice, but whatever. Michael.
I think it's
Daugherty,
Latin, Donna.
Is that what it is? Sounds like Italian to me.
I actually studied Latin. I just want to throw that out there. I had either 2 or 3 years of it.
You'd never know that by looking at him either.
Yeah, because the Latin teacher that I had was actually pretty hot.
That's why you took Latin.
And the German teacher was kind of mean. Spanish teacher guy, I think he was gay.
Well, I think
so. It was a non-issue.
Right not you're racist.
No,
you're racist if you go anywhere
No.
because you are.
No, the
Whether
Latin
you know it or not.
teacher was hot.
Okay, whatever.
And those of you that were in my class with me, not learning Agricola and Puella and all these other Latin words, you know why you were there.
What school is that?
That was at Lovett.
Oh, okay. Right there in Atlanta, Georgia. And who was your he wasn't your classmate, though. He was your adversary, right? What's his face in Texas now? Why am I drawing a blank on his name?
When I moved over to Northside High School, because I either had to love it or leave it, and I left it and went to Northside. Alan West is who you're thinking of. Yes. He went to North Fulton, and we did engage in extracurricular sports activities together. And then we went to the University of Tennessee together and didn't know each other.
Yeah. Very
How about that?
And
all right, let's get back to this. This is very boring for me to talk about, Donna.
Well, certainly for Michael to have to sit through as well. Michael Daugherty.
No, because Michael's sitting there going, man, this guy's pretty fascinating. He doesn't look like he would be that fascinating.
Does he look like he took Latin, Mike? Seriously?
Yeah, do I look like I would have studied Latin?
I said it was Italian. That's my bad. I mean, it's just, but it got her the pronunciation the right way. So
sounds like Italian to me.
That's true.
Sounds like Italian to me. Okay. Anyhow, Michael, let me just reintroduce you real quick. Government whistleblower, and his book, The Devil Inside the Beltway, the shocking expose of U.S. government surveillance and overreach into cybersecurity, medicine, and small business. And find all of his work, as you see right there on the screen, thejusticesociety.com. You can get his book there as well. Let's look at the situation here in Georgia. Again, and what's happening everywhere. You've got Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, threatening the state of Georgia to follow their own rules, threatening Arizona to follow their own rules. And they sit there and they say, oh, it's voter suppression. How is it voter suppression if the vote already happened and so many of these people are dead? That's why we don't want to count them. It just drives one insane if you really look at the doublespeak the government uses.
It really is persecution through process. And it's important for people to really understand that the founding fathers founded a country to keep government in control. Government's the problem. What happens when human beings get too much power? And we have seen our U.S. government remove the separation of powers within them for a century. And Garland's just a symptom of a sickness of what happens with these power mongers. And what these power mongers do is they throw theater words at the ignorant masses, the useful idiots that are the far left. And so much of the public, because we haven't had a civics book that has been truly reflective of what the U.S. government does and operates since the 1920s. Because things start changing then. So therefore you have everyone that's alive that really doesn't understand these concepts, thinks the government's there to help them, buys into that, has such a comfortable life they don't understand how bad it is. And yet we have a lot of people that have woken up now. So you now have you've got this crowd that believes the talk and the other crowd that believes the walk. And the people that are running the talk crowd use Saul Alinsky rules for radicals to run the show, which means any lie, any theater, any means to any end is okay. So lying's okay, cheating's okay, life destruction's okay, flip-flopping's okay, persecution through process is okay. These people have all crossed the bridge. They're in the government. They've got their lifetime paychecks. And so this is wash, rinse, repeat. Garland does it this day. Obama does it that day. Clinton does. I mean, and it's not one single side of the aisle, by the way, because the rhinos ignore it and enable it. Because let's just look at all the subpoenas that flew out of Congress when Trump was getting hit with a completely trumped up fake FBI investigation. Look what everyone did in the rhino camp. So, being accessory to murder is still a bad thing. So I don't want to sound too partisan. I really want to go after both houses. And I want people to understand that Merrick Garland's just, same theater, different actor, same thing. And
let's look at the other Garland, and that is Garland Favorito. Now, he, like you, is suing to try to, get votes counted, essentially. The main thing is that, okay, maybe we can't reverse the presidential election, but it's pretty damn obvious at this point that the senatorial election was stolen. I mean, you've got Joanne Pulitzer right there in real time being able to tap into the machines through a thermostat on the wall while the election was going on. That was right when our friend Sally Grubbs was testifying as well, and with Rudy Giuliani too. And it's like, oh, hum, nothing to see here, move along. And it just kept going. And I'm screaming at the TV going, stop the vote now, stop the vote now. Perhaps at least we have some hope that can be reversed, no?
Well, okay. So once again, you have to know what the law is, and you have to stay in the lane of the law. And Garland's case is not an election case because it wasn't filed in the right way to be an election case because they didn't have enough at the time. Garland's case, and I talk to Garland all the time. We work together. We share the same attorney. And he's a good friend. So to be clear, Garland's case is a due process case to have the rights to access to ballots. That is a massively huge help. And the reason it's gotten so much attention, sad to say, is because it's finally gotten through and a judge hasn't just tossed it out the window. And there's all these crazy making things that happen that drive the public nuts. You know, you wonder where the world is when the judge says keep everything secure, and coincidentally the next weekend, you know, the alarm goes off where the ballots are and no one's there and the door's open. There's all these crazy things that happen that a normal American who's sitting home believing that we have protections in place is going, where is everybody? And so Garland is trying to fight for the right to just look at this stuff. Now that can be very helpful in my case because that can open up the evidence, because the way the law works everywhere in the country with election law is that you can bring whatever you want to the court. The dog ate my homework. This is wrong. That was right. Fraud happened. But if you don't have these votes were wrong and change the result, you don't have that, doesn't matter. Because the courts are not going to allow election litigation to be used as a weapon against election results. So they don't want, because listen, if you could sue each other for election results, the Democrats would be suing every Republican throughout their entire power time because they're so full of money and they use any weapon because they're shameless. Everything's a weapon. Everything's a weapon to them. While we sit here not realizing we're on a battlefield. So Garland's case is very helpful, very much that. And then what it can get to is proof to assist my case, which is all these laws were broken. We need the runoff done again. And we need it done appropriately. My suit is this runoff wasn't done correctly. It broke the law. Therefore, according to the law, it must be done again. This is, and everyone has to start, not end, with what the laws are. And work within that framework if you're going to use the judiciary. And we've never been through this before at this sort of national level, which is why we watched the Keystone Cops of lawyers with the Trump thing, because you have 5 days. I mean, it's impossible to thread that needle. It's impossible.
So the thing is, though, a lot of people are saying if we can get a good, decent forensic audit in Georgia, that the runoff between Ossoff and Perdue never would have been needed. Perdue would have won outright. And that changes the whole course of Washington, D.C. with the Senate.
That's exactly right. And that's why the media on my case has been the Trojan horse case that can turn the Senate red, because really, Perdue's the senator. Perdue was so narrowly pushed into a runoff, and we believe completely that's totally bogus. And there should never have been a runoff with Perdue ever. And that should have never happened.
But how about Michigan and Arizona as well? You've got two Senate seats there that could have flipped. And Mark, I'm drawing a blank on his name, Mark Kelly in Arizona.
Those are, see, the state by state laws are different, and things weren't filed the right way or in the right time. And so, you have to file the case the right way, and you have to know early enough. And many election lawyers say the only way to have election law defend you is to know the fraud happens before it happens. I mean, the luxury of what happened here was that we had a runoff to give us time. Those cases in those states, they could be completely wrong. I mean, what the American public's going to learn here is that the judicial system knows darn well that sometimes justice is completely missed. And you know what they do about it? Keep on moving forward. Yeah. And that's not just about law. And so you as a citizen have to go back and make sure it doesn't happen again. And what happens to citizens that go back right now? Oh, you're racist. Oh, you're racist. Oh, you're racist. Oh, you're racist. Because you're not allowing cheating to win, so you're a racist. So you have to take, as Ron DeSantis said, those fire-lit arrows that are going to hit you, and you've got to move forward against them anyway, or you're going to lose the country. And so you have to understand that's going to happen in those states.
Exactly. And there was a man on the street interview done. I don't know if it was Project Veritas or not. Might have been Ami Horowitz, but they go to a white, talk to most of white kids on campus in Ivy League schools, and they're going, well, black people can't get photo ID. It's harder for them to vote. And then they go to Harlem, and the black voters are going, are you kidding me? I've had a voter ID forever. That in itself is racist. That's what drives me so nuts. It's upside down.
Michael,
whatever they say, it's the opposite.
Michael, let me ask you this. And I'm asking this of you because you're so deeply entrenched in this whole process that's going on. Why is it that the only people that are bitching about access to voting are Democrats and libs? We never hear any conservatives or Republicans complaining about this. So, and this is a bit of a tongue-in-cheek question. So why is it that we've only got the libs complaining about it? Maybe it's a thing that the libs have an inability to actually vote.
The libs are racist.
And every day we do things with ID. Every day.
Well, because they're losing, and they're losing with their ideas. When they elected Obama, that was a watershed moment for them. Liberals look for nirvana. They look for a perfect society. They look for something they can't. They think the world of themselves.
Utopia.
And they got right, and they got Obama. And guess what didn't happen? The dream. And that circle and confused. And then they sat there, and then I couldn't believe it when Romney lost. Not that he didn't do everything possible to help himself to lose, but at the same time, I thought, here's the how people that didn't think it was a failure, they came up with the excuse, we need more time and more money. So the bottom line is that they are doing this because that's all they've got. All the ideas we have now given them their shot. They've gotten their billions and zillions. They want more billions and zillions. We've given them everything they wanted. I mean, everything. Obama won. You've got, at the time, remember when Obama won, all three branches of government were blue, and now all three branches of government are basically blue. The Senate's tied, but you've got Harris there. And they're never, ever, ever, ever happy, because if they were happy, they'd be out of a job. And there's no such thing as utopia. So now it's not working. So what do we have to do? We have to cheat to win. We have to lie. We have to import people, and because they don't know, and we have to gaslight them, because the only way we can get voters to keep us in power is to import illegal immigrants, not immigrants. But we have to say that you're a racist if you're not for illegal immigration, which allows drugs and child, abuse to run rampant. These people are shameless and desperate to win, and we've got a lot of sleeping lambs in this country. But it's coming to a head with this election thing. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying what I'm saying from last fall, which is now I believe this election, we've had stolen elections in this country for the last 50 years, and it's never been at a massive tipping point. But what we had here was a perfect storm, because Trump got the power grid and those incredible tentacles in industry, government, global, totally threatened, and they pulled out the stops. And now it's vilification and isolation and arresting people that have an idea that's an offensive, just an idea that's an offensive, just a YouTube video, just anything, just, oh, that's hate speech. And it's really terrifying, because it's stripping every amendment. Now the First Amendment's bad. Now the Second Amendment's bad. Now the Fourth Amendment's bad. I mean, I do think we're waking up, which is why it's so tense, but you got to push through it. It ain't going to be easy, folks, because we've sat for a century.
Get uglier. Absolutely. I wanted, because you worked in the medical industry, I want to kind of talk about COVID now. And, the knock on the door there. And, have you gotten your vaccine yet? And we've had COVID. We had antibodies. We had the blood test done. So we know we have antibodies. And we were at a doctor this past weekend, or the end of last week, actually. And his assistant's going, well, still haven't you gotten vaxxed?
Haven't you been vaccinated?
Why would we get vaxxed if we already had it? Well, you don't know how long the antibodies are going to last. Well, you don't know how long the vaccine's going to last, let alone the fact that it could kill you. It's pretty sad when every single major area of our life is being run by people who've been corrupted. And I believe it starts with medicine right at the AMA.
So, number one, somewhere along the line, the American public has decided that non-medical people know about medicine, so they listen to their congressman. And I always say, when I'm sick, I don't call my congressman. And that was, I believe, an intense plan, an intentional plan to first of all undermine Americans' confidence in the medical system. That started with Hillary Clinton. And once they affect, and it's very easy to do, because we're by and large extremely healthy. And we don't learn about being ill until we're way older in life. And by the time we're an educated medical consumer, we're soon to be dead, and then we're dead. So there's a constant incoming supply of stupid people that you can fool. And we also don't have in family history anymore, like we did 50 years ago, tuberculosis hospitals, people that were there in the family, polio, penicillin. These are things taken for granted. So you have this entire couple generations of, like, isn't this great? And they're wealthy in the sense that they have the wealth of good health. So they're vulnerable and they want to help other people, and they're nice. And so you got politicians that are only interested in saying good things and subtly rocking boats. So you don't have anyone on the right knowing how to not look like the bad guy. And so now here we are in this century, in this decade, with a bunch of people that don't get it. And then you have this propagandized disease goes on that is completely removed a frame of reference. Like, all they're putting up is death numbers, but they're not putting up comparative death numbers. You've got Fauci going on television acting like everyone's personal lawyer. But since I've been in medicine for 40 years, my initial offense of him wasn't that he was flip-flopping. It's that any doctor that goes on television and positions himself as the be-all, end-all answer is a liar. And he also he's violating his oath to do no harm, and he's really undermining what the whole government agenda is, which is to kill the physician-patient individual relationship. They want to get into that. Control your health, control your food, control your life, control you. Mm-hmm. And this is government wanting control and power.
As soon as Obamacare went in, I had that sinking feeling, because that's the biggie. Healthcare is the biggie. And they're even doing it with banking. There are some banks that won't let Trump bank with them anymore. It's unbelievable. And the thing is, everything Trump did or said was right. And he's actually said on a couple of the rallies he's done lately, maybe I should have used reverse psychology and just said the opposite, because it would have gone with it, like hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin work. And of course, every time we say that, we get thrown off YouTube. So there we go again.
See you later, YouTube.
And anyhow, but that's exactly, and now YouTube is saying with the past CPAC over the weekend, they're not going to show it because, I don't know, violated some standards they had, because they don't want to show Trump's speech. It's crazy that they are keeping the information from us.
They're so desperate that they don't care how obvious they are now in silencing thought in people. They've had to jump the shark, and people have to know, but you just can't sit home anymore and do nothing. So we have to build other platforms. A big mistake we made, and it will take time to fix it, is that we built this entire communications platform on things that politicized people control. And you have to somehow drop the milk bottle and switch, and that's going to take time. It's going to hurt in the short run, but the pain is bigger in the long run when you've got these punk techno wealthy people that just come from liberal arts to too much money, too early, no life experience, then they think they get to be social dictators using their power as a private company. This is the irony. They are using their power as a private company and a contracted relationship to be fascists.
Yeah.
And change ideas, and we've never had that happen before. We've never had basically think like I think, I'm going to turn off your electricity. And we've got to get something done in the law to do that. And the way these people stop that from happening is they go after individuals and defeat them and silence them and smother them. And they want all the coward masses to watch that so you stay in line. This is not a new trick. This has gone on in human history from government power forever. It will never go away. You have to know how to push it back and adjust the government.
Well, the 1% here is joining with the 1% of the CCP. And look what the CCP's done to their people for the last 100 years. The Communist Chinese Party is 1% of billions and billions of people there. And if we lose this, forget it. I think we're going to go into major dark ages. We've got about 4.5 minutes left. Mike, I wanted you to talk about breaches in security of really so many of our major indices that are just being businesses that are just being overlooked whether it comes to our grid or certain pipelines and things of that nature. All of a sudden we're seeing, I don't know, some 700-800 breaches in the last couple of years, maybe the last 7 or 8 years, and nobody's really talking about that.
Well, there's way more than that, and the numbers haven't really spiked. It's just they haven't gone away. And so they make it a story when they have to make it a story. So when a pipeline is hit, we have to make it a story. So we're going to act like we're ahead of the curve, which is completely bogus because the media has ignored all this other stuff. Now, why is that? That's because we have allowed and assisted in building a government where accountability does not exist, and they want power. So when you have the Office of Management and Budget lose millions of things and tons of secrets to protect the country to China, something only happened to the head of it after there was so much outrage that Obama did nothing to anybody. So the whole original sin is you're not going to get any competency in any aspect of any government operation when there's no accountability from within. And these people do not want accountability from within. They're politicized. And if they go from accountability within, they'll be held accountable. Trump went for accountability. Man, that's talking people's survival. And these people are in their middle and late ages now, and they got no place else to go. That's war. Might be immoral, might be unethical. And so that's the same thing. That's the same thing that's happening here. This is not a surprise. It's the same thing that happens everywhere else. It's the same thing that happens with the FAA and the 737 MAX crashing like crazy right after. This is a culture of no accountability across the board. And the only time the media acts like they're doing their job is when they have no choice but to act like they were there ahead of time. And the only people that are really close involved in the political process, like myself, who's been dragged into it just because the tree fell down on me, watches this and goes, this is just crazy. Because I've been to 60 Minutes when they've refused to report things. I know how tied up they all are. I know CNN is a terrifying. I mean, I was on CNN when Hillary first ran, and I saw live in the 1 hour shot I was with them on this whole interview. They had 12 of us in here for the first debate, see what we thought, and they didn't like how we voted, and they had a technical flaw, and then they re-voted. I mean, I left there. That was in 2007, and I said to the producer, "Don't ever have me come back because I had more professional behavior in my high school and radio and TV class." And I've known we've been in trouble a long time with these people, and that's only because I was there, you know, and we have to wait. And people are now becoming there because it's now impacting lives. I mean, how much Obamacare premium rising and treatment failure do we hear about every day? Never. How about all these breaches do we hear? Never. Who's held accountable? No one. And these techno companies that are supporting all this social stuff, they're over there making a fortune off of China just ignoring all that oppression and murder and sterilization and everything else they do to you. Isolation. You want to talk about isolation from COVID? They'll put you in a room and let you starve and die in China. That's what they do. Wuhan, there's all sorts of stories of, that never, you don't see that on, Don Lemon.
No, you definitely don't.
Doesn't fit their narrative.
And unfortunately, Michael, we are out of time. Folks, find him, as you see right there, thejusticesociety.com. Buy his book, The Devil Inside the Beltway, the shocking expose of the U.S. government's surveillance and overreach into cybersecurity, medicine, and small business, because that's what they're doing. They're crushing the big guy. For the last year and a half, we've seen Walmart and all the big box stores able to stay open, but not the little mom and pop shops. They got to go get SBA loans to stay afloat, if they can still stay afloat. And I think, 2 million businesses have been lost across the country in this mess. Michael, we thank you so much for joining us here on Cowboy Logic. We got to have you back again. And that's it, folks. Find us at cowboylogic.us, and we'll see you next week.